Welcome to the 1996 announcement show. It is really great to be with all of you. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Ted Cunningham. As most of you probably realize, this is unlike anything we've ever done before. Not only because it's on videotape, but because so much of it is aimed at you as a member of the dealership staff. There's a good reason for that. Put simply, each of you is critical to our business success. And that's equally true whatever your job is, whether it is in sales or service or parts, or whether you answer the phone or sweep the floors or shuttle cars, handle customers, do filing, whatever. Every customer you satisfy is a customer more likely to do future business with your dealership. Every improvement you help make in your dealership is a step towards satisfying lots of customers and towards holding on to their loyalty when it's time to buy again down the road. In a real sense, we are partners in this, and the best partners are the ones who are knowledgeable about all aspects of the business, not just their own job. That's the reason for this event, and that's why we have a lot of information to share with you today. We're going to tell you about our marketing plans and our activities. We have a special guest lined up who will help give you an inside look at the people and plans that'll move us into the future. We'll try to give you a new perspective on your role within your dealership, and we'll give you some solid suggestions for things you can do, beginning right now, to help build customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. And we'll tell you a little bit about some of the activities we have planned that will keep you and your dealership successful into the next century. It's hopefully going to be an exciting show and an interesting one. And I think when we're done, you'll be amazed at how focused we are on the very same goals. So let's get started. And to kick it off, I want to introduce to you a very special guest, one of the most respected and honored figures in the television industry, and one of the world's most accomplished interviewers, Larry King.
Thanks, Ted. We're coming to you today from the Chrysler Technology Center with two very special guests. Chrysler Corporation Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Bob Eaton, and Chrysler Corporation President and Chief Operating Officer Bob Lutz. It's the Bobs. This telecast is all about Chrysler Corporation's 1996 model new car announcement. First question is for both of you. How's it going? Oh, as they say in my trade, how's business?
Never been better. Chrysler's really in great shape right now. Our balance sheet is strong. We've never, ever had products as good as we have today. And sales are pretty good out there.
Yeah, and our new model launches are coming along fine. Everything we've got in the pipeline is going to be the way we want it to be, and so I think from a product standpoint and future product, we're in great shape as well.
So the company's doing fine. You both are doing happily and well. I mean, do you get along together?
Yeah,
It's important to dealers to know that the president and the CEO are comfortable with each other.
I guess you should always ask the subordinate first on that one.
So I'm asking
it's
you.
the best relationship I've ever had with a reporting senior in my whole career.
No kidding.
Yep.
That's a bold statement, mate. And what's it like to
Couldn't be better. We enjoy being around each other, and we think alike. We both love cars, and terrific relationship.
And when you disagree, is it informal disagreement? I mean, you can't agree on everything.
No, but those are so few and far between, they really don't come into
Well,
play.
when we do, I feel totally comfortable telling Bob that I disagree with something, and I always make sure he knows he's the boss in the final analysis, but we have very frank disagreements sometimes, but never over very substantive issues.
So you're friends, too?
Yes.
Sure say so, yep.
Yeah. So both of you deal with equipment and things, so you're careful about things. And the theme of Chrysler this year, and you're going to have to explain it to me, is handle with care. This is something usually you see stamped on a FedEx package if there's glass inside. So you want to break it down for me, Bob. What does it mean?
You know, the bottom line of this business is customer satisfaction. And part of that's the product, and a big part of it is how you handle the customer at the dealership. The way they get treated, how fair they think they're being treated, how friendly, and So really, it handled with care in every part of the transaction.
You're talking about the customer then here, right?
Yeah, handle with care really means the customer. And as Bob said, this business is getting so competitive. Everybody builds good cars now. There's no such thing as a bad automobile or a bad truck. They all last forever. They all have great quality. You can still differentiate yourself somewhat with styling and excitement, which is what we're doing so successfully now. But there are other brands out there, and one of them's domestic, that are differentiating themselves by how well they look after the customer and how wonderful the whole buying and ownership experience is.
So the handling is as important as the product.
I would say so, absolutely.
without
I know
doubt.
as a customer, service is very important.
Of course.
How
And
well
that's
I'm
all
treated
part of it.
after I buy the car.
Yeah. You really got to think about customer satisfaction from the time the customer walks in the door the
Or
first
even
time
phones the dealership.
until exactly
That's right. The
until
switchboard operators.
Yeah, absolutely.
until he comes in for his next car. You know, that might be 2 years, that might be 8 years.
Now we think of giant corporations, and as a layman, I think of you two guys at the top, and dealers are out there somewhere. How do you deal with them to have the people watching this now better serve their customers?
Well, we're spending a lot of money on training, not only dealership personnel, but our own people who interface with the dealers.
Or is the corporations very accessible to the dealer?
Well, we try to be, and you know, you just said something, that we're up here and the dealers are out there. That's one of the perceptions that we want to eradicate in the minds of all factory people. It isn't like a mountain with the factory on top and the dealers down in the valley. We tend to view it as a horizontal plane, a value-added chain, from the suppliers through us to the dealers to the customer. Everybody's at the same level. And what we're trying to do is use every bit of that chain, whether it's the suppliers or us or the dealers. But finally, when that product and the service gets to the customer, it's got to be totally satisfactory. The whole experience has got to be satisfactory. And that means that we have to increasingly link ourselves with the dealers rather than having an adversarial relationship. It's really got to be a partnership with one focus, which is to give maximum satisfaction to the customer.
And it's very important that the person in Phoenix get treated as well as the person in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're independent people, these people
Sure
who
they
run
are.
your dealerships, right? And
Yes.
they usually, they've gotten to be successful by doing things a lot their own way, so they have to get into a different kind of cooperative mode, don't they?
And that's what we were trying to do, you know, with the training, with the Customer One training and the advanced Customer One training, is to try to get everybody to really come away from whatever they've been doing and come back to a very organized process in how to deal with that customer and actually delight the customer. We don't want to just satisfy them, we want to delight them.
We don't want cookie cutter, one size fits all, because dealers are all individual personalities. They have their individual styles. You know, some are obviously more conservative, others are more outgoing. Well, that's fine. A lot of styles will work, but the basics are, you know, respect for the customer and a love of the customer, seeing things through the customer's eyes and dealing with the customer in the way that they like to be dealt with themselves.
Do you teach people to be nice?
Well, obviously that's part of it, but that's only the superficial veneer. If the right attitude and the right behavior isn't there, then the superficial niceness isn't going to cut it.
That seems logical in a service business.
No
that
question.
You want to be nice to the people who are bringing you income.
But Bob's point is they can see through it. If it's really...
If it's just a veneer.
If it's just a veneer, it won't work.
What's the rest of the year going to be like? Give me a forecast for the final quarter.
Just about like right now. I think
Good.
yeah.
Healthy.
Very healthy. And matter of fact, this kind of year where we've got pretty steady sales is better than huge cycles with boom and bust. And as a result, we think that we'll be able to plan production better. The dealer will have a better steady flow of product, and he'll have hopefully a steady flow of customers as well. And we ought to all do very well in the next few years.
So it would take some extraordinary circumstances to get off that train.
In terms of
Economics.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we have some more, if the Fed increases rates again, I think it could slow it down. On the other hand, if there were some loosening of credit, I think it could speed things up some more. But right now, as Bob says, I think we've got a steady base with just a slight year-over-year increase, and that's really good for us.
Now, how about the statement, we hear it a lot, I remember when the first car cost $10,000. I couldn't believe it. A car cost $10,000.
Right.
That was what you made a year. $10,000. Now that's, of course, there are no $10,000. What about the thought that they're too expensive?
Well,
This is public
yeah, you know, my dad had a Chrysler New Yorker convertible that he bought in the fall of 1940, and I remember the list price was $14.95.
And he
Not
complained.
thousand,
This is-
$1,495.
And he probably said this is a little high.
But I also remember, you know, when hamburgers cost 10 cents
I know.
when I used to go get them after school. But we obviously do research on this whole affordability issue, and it's being blown out of proportion by the press. If you actually look at affordability,
have a chart.
I just happen to have a
I'm
chart.
used to this.
Yeah,
Affordability.
taking lessons from Ross
Perot.
Perot. Right. This is a very simple chart, and this basically shows the number of weeks that the average American had to work in 1983 to afford a new car. It was 23.6, and here's that same information for 1995 is 23.4, and
Less.
basically means that incomes are rising faster than the price of new cars.
And another thing, if the car's built better and lasts longer, then I get a better return, right? Because
No
I'm not
question
taking
about
it
it.
in as much, nor am I trading it in as quickly.
That's correct. The average age of the cars out there in the public is growing and is now between 8.5 and 9 years. And as you pointed out, that's because they're lasting longer. The quality's better, the reliability's better, and the durability's better.
One of the most important things in business is know the competition. And I know both of you at the top end here at Chrysler worked for your competition. You for GM, you for Ford. Did that give you special insight?
Oh, without a doubt. I think, and the fact that both of us, and you know, Bob was born in, in Switzerland, but both of us have lived in Europe, we've got a much better feel of the overall world automotive market, and I think all that helps us do our jobs better.
Yeah, I think it's one of the strengths of the Chrysler culture that there's the old established Chrysler culture, then there were the Ford imports, the American Motors imports when we bought AMC, and now we have some top people from GM, including the chairman. And that results in a group of people who are always questioning, why are we doing things this way? We're not in a corporate rut of only one way to do things, and that gives us the ability to change quicker. I think we are sort of a cultural melting pot, and I think it's a distinct advantage.
You're on a momentum now, right? The mid-90s is starting to build again. How do you keep that going? Can Handle with Care help? Obviously it can help.
Yeah.
How do you keep momentum? I know as a sports fan, it's the hardest thing in the world to win tomorrow.
Bob and I talk about that a lot because in many ways, adversity gets you going a lot better than when things are going well.
Sure.
And that's why one of the reasons we were glad the market got a little soft, because it put a little heat on us and made us focus again on cost reduction and speed improvement and further quality improvements. I guess it's just you really Bob can tell you more about this, but his philosophy is just which I share completely. You just have to keep focused on getting better and better, and always accepting that the improvement you made yesterday that got you to where you are today, if you hold it there, you're going to fall behind. You constantly have to improve.
My friend Don Schuler says, if you rest on your laurels, you rest.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
you're done.
right.
You're all done.
Yeah.
You've got to continually improve every day, whether it's in a Chrysler or whether it's a dealership.
I thank you all very much, both of you, but the 96 models, give me a forecast. Hit car.
Well, obviously minivan and Grand Cherokee, Cirrus, Stratus, we've got hits across the board.
All of them.
Any surprise?
Well, you know, we may have a surprise out there in the economy, but if the economy hangs with us, and I think it will, 1996 model year, and for that matter, 97 ought to be terrific for Chrysler and terrific for the dealers.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Thank you all very much for joining us. Have a great model year, and to all of you out there, a great Handle with Care announcement event. I also want to thank the folks at Chrysler for this wonderful pair of braces, which I'll add to my collection of 7,432. Now it's time for a very special message from one of the top speakers out there today. His name is Roger Dow. Don't go away. He's the Vice President, General Sales Manager for Marriott, and he is sensational. Got a terrific message for all of you. Enjoy, and have a great 1996 model year. Go Chrysler.
Well, thanks, Larry. It's terrific to be here, and it's great to be part of your Handle with Care announcement meeting, because as you think of it, there's a lot of similarities between both our businesses. I'm in the hotel business, and all of you that are in the dealership and car business, there's many, many similarities between our business. You think about it, what's going on in both of our businesses these days is all of our customers seem to be pushing us on price. Every one of us, it seems our costs seem to be going up and the margins are harder to come by. We've got more competition than we ever needed before. And we both have a product, but more important, we both have people that we depend upon to really set us apart from our competitors. What I'm going to share with you, and I'd like to share with you as part of this meeting, is a few principles that I've observed that the really great organizations have in common. And the first of those principles is everyone in the entire organization, no matter what their job is, no matter what their job, really realizes that one size doesn't fit all. And I think that's so true. Every one of our customers are different. Every need we have, whether you're a porter, whether you're someone that's a receptionist or talking on the phone, whether you're a service advisor or a technician, whatever, each customer has a different need. And one size doesn't fit all, and that's a challenge. My wife went out last time she went to buy a car, and she came home with this car, and I said, how'd you make your decision? She said, I like the cup holder right where it was. And they're open on Saturday mornings in service. I said, that was your whole decision? She said, yeah. And she bought a $25,000 cup holder. And but if that's what's most important to her, then we need to focus on that and not the drivetrain, but I may care about the drivetrain. And how do we meet each customer's changing need? In my business, in the hotel and restaurant business, there was a company that thought they could get away with one size fitting all many, many, many years ago. For those of you a little younger, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back about 20 years ago in the restaurant business, where we go out in our family for what we call the family dining experience. Some 20, 30 years ago. What was it like? You'd walk into one of the restaurants and you would stand in front of a sign that said, please wait for hostess to seat you. You stood there for what seemed to be an eternity, and all of a sudden, one of the other patrons yelled, they fired the hostess 2 years ago, grabbing a table. You see the sign was stuck to the wall. They couldn't get it off. You sat down, you put your arm on the table, and it stuck. It stuck to that strange substance. I don't know what it was, but it was always there. And with your arm stuck to the table, you competed for the attention of the few waiters and waitresses who were left. You placed your order, and then Howard Johnson's did something medical science has been trying to duplicate ever since. They cryogenically froze your waitress, put her in suspended animation. You thought she had died, and she had. But then they brought her back to life. And then she came out with your order. She put it in front of you. You'd forgotten what you ordered. And then she reached in her apron, pulled out the grease-stained check. The math was reasonably close. And put it right down in the soda one of your children had spilled. And it said on the back, please pay cashier, implying they didn't trust her with money. Yeah, that was Howard Johnson's. Howard Johnson said, we're everywhere. We own the market. You eat on our terms, or you don't eat at all. Yet they didn't see how we were changing. They didn't see all the two-income families. They didn't see all the pressure we had in trying to balance our career, our hobbies, our lives. And someone else came along with fast food. And I'm in these fast food restaurants twice a week. If you're not lucky enough to be there twice a week, let me describe the experience. I walk into one of these restaurants and I stand on line. I stand on line in front of a counter. As I get closer and closer to the counter, I start to get nervous. I start to perspire. I start mentally rehearsing my order for fear some 16-year-old might call me indecisive. I don't know why I care, but I do. I get my order all right, get it all wrapped up in cardboard and wax paper. I roam around the restaurant. We sit down, we consume the food, and then what do? We clean up the table so you won't talk about us when you sit down with your friends. Let's face it, we're all busboys at McDonald's. I mean, well, why? Why am I at McDonald's twice a week? Not for the great food, because I've got two customers, two internal customers, my most important customers, Blake and Devin. And every week I'll say to my wife, Linda, I've been traveling all week on business. I'll tell you what, the children and I, we're going to go play soccer, and then we're going to go for lunch. You want to meet us for lunch? She said, that's okay. I've had many meals with them this week. You're on your own. I said, all right. So I'm driving down the road, and I say to my little daughter, Devin, I can work better with her. I said, now, Devin, where would you like to go for lunch this week? How about Chez Nu, the cute little French place that opened up? She said, Dad, we're going to McDonald's. I said, why are we going to McDonald's this week? We were there twice last week. She said, French fry transformers. I go, what? What are French fry transformers? And I can see her hands in the mirror, and she's holding up, and she said, they're French fries that turn into dinosaurs and back to French fries again. I said, how did you know this? She said, we saw it on TV this morning. This is embarrassing. I have to teach my own family Marketing 101. I said, no, that could be last week's promotion. And they were all out. Could be next week's promotion, they don't have them yet. She said, they'll have them. I said, all right. So we go to McDonald's, third time in 10 days. We get out of the car. My son, Blake, looks up at the McDonald's sign. I said, Dad, you know why I love McDonald's? Can't imagine such a thing. I said, why do you love McDonald's? He said, McDonald's never lies to you, Dad. And he goes to the McDonald's. He goes up to the lady. He said, do you have French fry transformers? Lady said, we sure do. My 2 children went, see? What a powerful position. The reason we're going back for another Chrysler, another Plymouth, another Dodge, another Jeep is because they never lie to us. Now, none of us ever lie on purpose. What ends up happening is our conveyor belts are running so fast, we're so busy, that stuff sometimes falls through the crack. That's the most important thing to that customer. Another principle I think is very important is we've got to work hard on the right stuff. Every one of us is busy. Every one of us has more on our plate than we can possibly do, and everyone is we're all trying to keep up. But the question is, what are the right things? What are the things that really make a difference to the customer? What are the things that really add value? What are the things that don't? What are those processes about that maybe we've always done, but yet the customer doesn't care? We got to work hard in finding out what those things are, and those things that don't mean anything to the customer, eliminate them, get rid of them. We can't do everything, be everything to everybody. It's sort of like, and I think this is what Advanced Customer 1 is all about, it's really about understanding. You know, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. Like Kenny Rogers said in that song, The Gambler. How many of you ever had a chance to shop at a Nordstrom store? Okay, all right, you all get around, okay. You know, I live, too much, huh? All right, so I live in Washington, D.C. And Nordstrom announced years ago they're going to open their first store in across the country, because, you know, they started in the state of Washington, then Oregon, then California, in Washington, D.C., 2,500 miles from their closest store. And everyone was talking about the new Nordstrom store, and I hadn't had a chance to get over there yet. And one of my friends said, have you been over there yet? And I said, no. He said, let me tell you about that store. I said, what happened? He said, well, I went in there to buy some sneakers. They're selling Reebok sneakers on sale, $39 a pair. He said, really good price. And I said, yeah. He said, well, I went in there. He said, it was very crowded, but a young man came up to me. He said, I wasn't there 30 seconds. He said, hi. He said, my name's Chip. He introduced himself. He said, well, my name's Bill Jackson. He said, hi, Mr. Jackson. What can I do for you? He said, I'd like to get a pair of those Reebok sneakers on sale, $39. He said, took my size. Then he went in the back, and he came right out. He said, Mr. Jackson, by name. He said, I'm real sorry. He said, we don't have your size. He said, this rarely happens at Nordstrom. We pride ourselves on our great inventory, but the sale was so successful. And my friend said, yeah, I'm sure you probably had 2 pair. He said, no. He said, well, how long are you going to be in the mall, Mr. Jackson? He said, I'll be in the mall, I don't know, maybe an hour, hour and a half. He said, would you give me 30 minutes then? 30 minutes to come up with your sneakers? My friend said, yeah, I'll give you 30 minutes. So now he's roaming around the mall. He's mad. He's mad because he's promised Chip, the shoe salesman, he won't buy sneakers for a half hour. But 40 minutes later, he goes back to Nordstrom, walks in. Chip sees him again by name. Mr. Jackson, we've got your shoes. Let's try them on. They fit perfectly. Now he gets real mad. He goes, Chip, he said, I don't have time to roam around the mall while you double-check your stock room. My recommendation to you, young man, is you double-check your stock and understand what you have in storage before you come out here and sell on the floor. And Chip said, we didn't have these. He said, where'd you get them? It's Saturday. He said, I went and bought them at Foot Locker. He said, you what? He said, I called up Foot Locker and asked if they had your size, 10.5D white Reeboks. They said they did. I told my boss. He said, we ran up there, we bought them, put the receipt, put the change in the cash register. He said, that's extraordinary. He said, who enables you to do that? He said, that's my job. He goes, what's your job? He goes, my job's to make sure you never buy your sneakers at Foot Locker. What a powerful position. Does everyone on the Chrysler team, everyone in your dealership team say, my job's to make sure you never think of anywhere else when it comes to buying a car or a light truck? Work hard on the right stuff. Be brilliant on the basics. The next principle, and I think it's so important, so extraordinarily important, is simplify, simplify, simplify. Every one of our lives is too complex. Every one of us have more things on our plate than we can possibly handle these days. And the question is, when you talk about simplifying, what are the things that are most important to the customer in each of your areas? What are the things that have customers say that we're easier to do business with? Not only externally, but internally. How does sales work for service? How does parts work with the back office and accounting? How does F&I? How do we become the easiest team to do business with in the entire industry? I think that's so important. And it gets down to how do we simplify things? How do we make things as easy as possible? As we talked earlier, take those processes and those things that don't add value and get rid of them and eliminate steps so we can get closer to the customer and individualize what we're doing for the customer. We get lots of letters in my business. We get lots of letters, people telling us about ideas they have. One of you wrote a letter and you said, I like the fact that you give us a newspaper in the morning. I'm in your frequent guest program. But the problem is, I wish you'd give me a choice of newspapers. I went down to see my friends in the systems area, the computers, and I said, can we do this? Can we put in every guest record what newspaper they like? They said, we can do everything in the computer department. I said, oh, good. Well, then they called me up and they told me how much it was going to cost. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know if we have that kind of money. Then I went to one of our hotels a week later. I check in. Woman at the front desk says to me, so by the way, sir, what newspaper do you want in the morning? USA Today, Wall Street Journal, the local paper. I said, I have a choice? She said, sure you do. I said, I'll take USA Today. I'd like to read the sports. She said, you'll have it. I forgot about the conversation. I went to sleep that night. I woke the next morning. I was going for a walk. I didn't even have a jacket and tie on. I opened the door, and a miracle occurred. Right in front of my door was a USA Today. Down the hall, a Wall Street Journal, local paper. I'm so darn excited. I run down the front desk. I said, how do you do it? Lady that worked at the front desk jumped back like it was Charlie Manson. She said, how do we do what, sir? I said, I'm sorry, let me introduce myself. My name's Roger Dow. I work at the corporate office. What bothered me is when she heard that, she started speaking more slowly. She said, how do we do? I said, how do you get the newspapers each store? We've got geniuses working on it. You're doing it. She said, well, since you work at Marriott, I'll tell you. And she held up something. She said, this is a yellow pad. I said, uh-huh. And she said, every night we write USA Today, Wall Street Journal, the local paper. I said, yeah. And she said, then when you ask for the USA Today, we put a line under USA Today and we write down your room number. She said, now here's the hard part. We get 4 lines, we put a cross line. That's 5. You with me so far? I said, yeah, I'm with you. So then we call the people who sell us the newspapers at 2 in the morning, tell them how many of each we want. And then we give the pads to the bellman. They deliver the papers at 4 in the morning, and they deliver them to all the rooms. Awesome. Another principle I'd like to share with you, I see in every one of the great organizations, and I think it's really what this whole program is all about. It's how do we invest in people? How do you invest in yourself? How do you build the value of every single person, each of you, in your dealership? The first thing that I've observed, again, in great organizations, is they hire the heart, not the head. For every single job, there's lots of smart people, but there's only a few that have the heart to do that job. Then you hire the people that have the heart that you really want on your team, that are part of your team, that can really do what it takes, to satisfy the customers, and they add value rather than having you have to carry them. And then you create an environment where people can really be great. And I'll tell you a story. We used to have a fellow that works with Marriott, a fellow named Sam Huff. He's a former football player. He played many years ago for the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins. They did a whole documentary on him called The Violent World of Sam Huff. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Sam's job is to get every single sports team to stay at Marriott. Well, we were having a meeting just like this, and we were recognizing some of the people who are doing a great job in our business. And Sam got up and he said, I'd like to recognize the top sports salesman in all of Marriott. I said, gee, who could that be? And he said, the top sports salesman in all of Marriott is Albert Smitty Smith. Smitty, come on up here. And this fella comes up, and he gets his plaque and gets his picture taken with Sam Huff and Bill Marriott, and we're all going, who's he? None of us knew him. Who is this guy? How can he be getting a picture with Bill Marriott? None of us know him. And then Sam said, Smitty, tell him why you're the best sports salesman in the whole company. And I'll never forget, he stepped over the podium, and he looked out, he said, I'm not a salesman like all of you. I'm a room service waiter. But what I have is I have a relationship. I have a relationship with every team, with every player. I take care of all the sports teams when they come to town. When a baseball team comes to town and is there for 3 days, he said, I stay in the hotel, and I'm 24 hours a day available to them. The stars, every player, every coach call me up and they say, Smitty, we're coming to town next week. Could you do some shopping for us? He said, I shop. I get Gatorade, whatever they want, put it in their rooms. He said, well, you know what happened? A new Hilton hotel opened 3 blocks away, and they offered the teams rooms for $4 less than we were charging. Half the teams moved out to get those cheaper rooms. And he said, you know what I did? Every time a team would come in that was staying at the Hilton, I'd take the day off because I wasn't going to be very busy. And I called one of my friends at the Hilton. I said, find out what time the team's coming. And so they'd tell me. And then I'd go up to the Hilton and I'd wait for him in the lobby. There's one particular time, here comes Tommy Lasorda with the Dodgers. He comes walking in, he goes, Smitty, he said, you're now at the Hilton, isn't that great? He goes, no, Coach. He called everyone Coach. He goes, no, Coach, I'm still at the Marriott. He said, well, what are you doing here? He said, I just came to welcome you to town, wish you good luck in the game tonight, and let you know, Coach, I'm going to watch that game on TV. And 30 minutes after it's over, I'm bringing your special order up from the Marriott. 2 cheeseburgers, onion rings, and a strawberry shake, right? He goes, what a memory, Smitty. This is before Ultra Slim Fast, All right, so, yeah. So he said, what a memory. He said, that's terrific. He said, Smitty, that's wonderful. He said, but why would you do such a thing? He said, oh, Coach. He said, I want you to know, even though you can't afford to stay with us anymore, we still love you. Albert Smitty Smith single-handedly brought every single team back because he cared and because he had a relationship. I think that's the whole thing that we're talking about, this whole customer one, of we build relationships. We care more about the customers than anyone else. You know, we had a baseball strike last year, and, you know, we saw what happened with the baseball strike. And I don't know how many of you got a chance to see that great game. The Bethesda Indians played the Chevy Chase Blue Jays. Well, I know it's a long way from where, but my son Blake, first year at Little League, is playing with the Bethesda team. And I'm going to tell you about a game. Blake's friend Tommy's up at bat. Tommy strikes out for what must have been the 50th time that year. He must hit the strikeout threshold because he took his bat and he threw it in the dirt, and he goes running over and he grabs his mother and he starts crying uncontrollably. And then my son Blake, who also hadn't gotten a hit all year, steps up to the plate. He too struck out. He dropped his bat. He looked at Tommy crying, looked at his mother and me. He walked right by us and he went and stood by a tree, and he's just looking down. My wife said, "Go over, put your arm around him, tell him he's okay, he feels awful." I said, "No, you don't do that." The other boys will laugh at him, say, "Oh, your father had to go tell you you're okay." I said, "Don't do that." Well, we didn't have a chance to talk about it much because the next guy struck out. And they went on to lose the game as they'd lost every game that year. And we're driving home, and Blake's very quiet. And I said, "Blake," I said, "you're so quiet, I know you must feel terrible about losing another game." He goes, "That's not it, Dad." I said, "What do you feel so badly about?" He said, "I feel so badly," he said, "I can't get a hit." He said, "You know, Tommy and me are the only guys on the team that haven't been on base all year. Next week's our last game." I said, "Blake, it doesn't matter. You're the youngest guys on the team. It doesn't matter you can't hit the ball. You got a good swing. It's just a matter of getting the timing. The most important thing is you're out getting exercise. You're meeting other boys. You're having a good time, right?" He goes, "What are you talking about, Dad? Of course it matters." I said, "What's the big deal?" He said, "Well, the big deal is," he said, "you know, all the other kids, they call Tommy and me, they call us the strikeout kings." He said, every week, he said, "You know, after we lose a game," he said, "we're out there on the playground, they throw stuff at us. They try and hit that." He said, "It's dangerous." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "You know," "we've been practicing lots of things. But we're going to practice one thing, just one thing, and that's how to hit the ball. Because your last game's coming up." And I said with him, I shared with him all the things that my father and my coaches shared with me. I said, "Blake, it's about a nice level swing. It's about watching the bat and the ball meet. Don't try and kill it, just try and meet it." And I was fairly confident by the end of the week he just might get a hit. And the big game came out. It was a big game because both Chevy Chase and Bethesda, neither had won a game all year, so somebody had to win, right, sooner or later. So we're there, and about third inning, his friend Tommy gets up at bat. Well, someone had been working with him too, because Tommy, the very first pitch, Tommy gets a hold of it, boom, and Tommy gets a double. Now there's Tommy on second base, a place he's never been in his entire life. Blake looks at me, his eyes are this big. He goes, "Now what?" I go, "Remember we talked about focus, watch the ball." It's okay. He stepped up. I watched him just barely put his bat out there and missed the first one. Missed the second one. I said, "Oh, it's going to be awful." Third one's a ball. Fourth one, he puts his bat out there, gets a hold and gets a home run. No, not out of the park, a Little League home run. You know, a throw here, a throw here, a throw here. No. And so I'm watching these two guys are running around the bases, and here they come, and this team that ignored them, the week before comes flying off the bench like they won the World Series. They're all over them. The coach is saying, sit down. The umpire will get mad. They sat down. They went on to win the game 14-2. They gelled as a team. At that moment. We're driving home, and I said, "Blake, I'm so proud of you. A home run, your first hit. I don't think Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle got a home run their first hit. This is amazing." I said, "But it shows you the value of coaching and management." He goes, "What are you talking about, Dad?" I said, "Well, you know," I said, "like last week, I was your coach, sort of, like your manager. I try and teach business lessons. They don't teach them in school where I live." Okay, so I said, "You know," I said, "You know, I was kind of like your coach, and I shared with you all the things that I learned as I was growing up in Little League, all things my father, my coaches taught me, so you could get a hit." He goes, "That had nothing to do with it." I said, "Well, that had nothing to do with it. How did you get a hit? I might add a home run." He goes, "I saw Tommy hit the ball. When I saw him hit it, I knew I could too." And I think that's what it's all about. It's when you have someone new on your team, you pair them up with the best person you have. This is Marie, probably one of the best people in customer service we have. You're going to work side by side with her, and she'll help you. This is John, probably one of the best technicians we have. And you take your best people, and they develop your best people. That's how you build great teams. And you each invest in ourselves and build a dealership that's strong all the way across the board. Last principle I'd like to talk about is really embodied in Handle with Care. It's what it's all about. It's how do you build an organization where everyone says that your dealership cares more about your customers, no matter what area in the dealership they come in contact, than anyone else. Bill Marriott sent a letter around to a bunch of us a while back, and he said, this is what it's all about. Bill, I better read this. It was a letter from a customer. It was a woman. She said, dear Mr. Marriott, I live in New York. I worked all day and I took the last flight to Los Angeles. I rented a car. I drove all the way to your hotel in Anaheim. By the time I checked in, it must have been midnight. So I called home, then I called the airlines, then I called room service. A young man came up. His name was Charles. He was so polite. He put my order down exactly as I wanted it, leaving a little flower and a tablecloth. I signed the check and I handed it to him, and he stopped. He said, ma'am, are you crying, or do you have bad allergies? He said, you should see your eyes. They're all red and puffy and full of water. He said, what's the matter? He said, I don't have allergies, Charles. I was crying. I was hoping you wouldn't notice. He said, well, I have noticed. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll get you some dessert tonight on Charles. It's on me, okay? He said, nothing you can do will make a difference. He said, what's the matter? He said, look, Charles, I travel all the time on business. I have a sister who's terminally ill. No matter where I am, no matter what time of night, when I arrive, whatever city, I call home and check with my brother to find out how she's doing. He said, I got to your hotel tonight, midnight, 3 a.m. at home. I called home. I said to my brother, I'm so sorry to wake you at this hour. He said, you haven't awoken us. We're all awake. He said, we're just getting ready to call you. I've got some bad news. We lost her. She passed away while you were in flight. Turn around, come home immediately. We need you. So I called the airline, said, I need to get back to New York immediately. They said, no problem. First flight, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Wide open. You've got a seat. So that's why I'm dining alone. That's why I'm crying. There's nothing you can do. And Charles said, what I can do is tell you, you have my sympathy. And I can say is we're open 24 hours a day. Is there anything you need? A cup of coffee, a soda, whatever. Call me. Please. So Charles left. He says, somehow, Mr. Marriott, I felt a little bit better knowing Charles, your room service waiter, cared. So about 45 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. So I looked through the hole, the little peephole, and said, who could this be at this hour? And there's Charles. He's back again. She says, my gosh, they come for the trays at any hour in this hotel. But since I was dressed, she said, I opened the door. And there was Charles not coming for the tray, but with another tray. And on that tray, he had a pot of coffee and a piece of warm apple pie. And he said, we got you this dessert tonight. It's on us, okay? And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a card. He said, we got you a card. Would you open it? She said, Mr. Marriott, should I open the card? There were 7 signatures on the card. He said, that's Charlie. That's me. That's Jack, the night cook. That's Helen. She answers the phone. That's Marie. She works at the front desk. That's Joe. He's a bellman. That's Harry. He's in engineering. That's Pete. He's night security. He said, these are my friends. We got you this card tonight because we want you to know you're not alone tonight. Lots of us care. Mr. Marriott, let me tell you something. I'll never meet you, and I don't need to meet you because I met Charles. I know what you're all about. I know what you believe. I know that you care more about me than the few dollars you might make on us and make on me. So I make you this promise. As long as I live, I will try to stay at your hotels. As long as I live, I will try to tell my friends they should stay at your hotels. Because you really care. And I think that's what it's all about. When you talk about handle with care, you talk about customer one, advanced customer one, I think that's what it really boils down to. That everyone says in your dealership, you know they care more about me, whether it's my cup holder, my drivetrain, or being open Saturday morning, but they care about me. As you go down this path, and you've done a miraculous job in the past few years as an organization, but as you go down this path and just keep advancing and getting better and better because everybody else is trying to catch you, as you go down this path, it reminds me of something I read in a book a while back, and I think it speaks very much about your whole organization. It speaks about the family that was talked about, you know, the Chrysler family, whether you're dealers and everyone, you know, the whole team, how you're one family. A book talked about geese and how, you know how geese fly in formation? And he said, a friend of mine was telling me, I said, you ever notice? He said, they fly in formation. You know why? I said, no. He said, they go 71% further when they're in formation and faster. He said, geese don't have one leader. They have lots of leaders. And they rotate leaders. And whoever's, you know, they take turns. So there's someone in front that's always fresh. Just like whatever your department is, whatever your area is, you have different leaders when it comes to the customer. And he said, geese always honk from behind for encouragement. You never see the lead goose going, come on, move it. No, they're always saying, hey, we're with you. And most important, if one of the geese is sick or wounded, 2 geese drop out until that the goose dies, and then, or the better, and then they rejoin the flock together. And I think that's what it's all about as we go down this path. How do we, in every single department, every area, have our customers see us as one, as seamless, as doing the job, of being the easiest to do business with, of working hard on the right stuff that really makes a difference to them, of simplifying things, and of having the flexibility to treat each customer as the only customer. That's what it's really all about. as we go down this journey together, as we really figure out how do we separate ourselves from everyone else in our business through the customers and what we think about customers and how we care in every single area about them. Don't forget, don't lose a kid in you. Have some fun. Remember back when people said, hey, this is impossible. And you say, hey, no, it's not. No was not an acceptable answer to you, remember? And you know, you did things together. We call it playing, but it's really teams and what you're doing here. And I think that's what it's all about. You've done a phenomenal job. We're also very proud of you, and the road you're going down, I think, is magnificent, and I'm very honored you've asked me to be here. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're nearing the end of the 1996 announcement activity that we have called Handle with Care. And in many ways, it has been a historic event. I certainly can't remember any announcement activity in which we've gone as far to share as much information with as many people as we have today. We've done that because we are a team, and because each of you, regardless of your job title, is absolutely critical to the success of Chrysler Corporation and to the success of your individual dealership. And that's why we need your help in getting Chrysler Corporation and your dealership on the road to that next level in customer satisfaction. There's a lot you can do, and probably more than you realize. As Roger Dow pointed out, some of what it takes is just really common sense. It's things like focusing on the basics and remembering that the things that are tasks to you are priorities to your customers. In that same spirit, I'd like to share with you some real-life stories. They're not unlike the stories Roger just told you. They feature real people in real everyday situations. The difference is, these are stories about members of the Chrysler family, people like yourself who represent the corporation on the front line every day. Just as we can learn from the people that Roger Dow encounters in his travels, we can learn a lot from each other. Here's what I mean.
You know, overall, we've always been a customer-focused dealership, but we've used a lot of different things. We incentivize our people real well, first of all, and we have empowered our people right down to the porter that can make decisions, judgmental decisions with customer issues, cleaning a car, gassing a car up, a courtesy for a customer, and so that, you know, our customers in general don't have to run back and forth or see the dealer or see the general manager to get something done in a dealership.
But if you feel a customer is entitled to something, you have the authority to do it at your will.
It really keeps that customer from getting to that boiling point to where they have to demand to see the dealer, they have to see the general manager, when in fact the situation could have been handled maybe from a cashier's point of view.
You're more or less treating the customer in the way that you would want to be treated if you were a customer at a business. They understand that whatever you can do for them, you are going to do for them. There's never a question about us doing what they expect or what they want. I mean, it's generally volunteered to them.
We actually took a poll throughout the dealership, and we found that we had a pretty good group of about 20 people that would like to sell cars part-time. So we got them licensed, put them through a training process, and we actually put them out on the floor.
And I worked up there for 9 days, and I sold either 7 or 8 cars out of them 9 days. And I got to talk to the customers just as they come on the lot.
The more people that are cross-trained in a dealership and know how the other department works, the tighter it's run and the more efficient it is. Everybody has their ideas of, what we can do for a customer to make things better for them, and we use a lot of those ideas from our employees in that total team effort.
If it seems a minor thing to a customer, it's a major thing to us. And we always strive for a 100% satisfaction with the customer.
If you do the things that come naturally, which we've done for years, and that's to take care of the external customers, then you're dealing with people's perceptions. And so what we had to do is clean up our internal problems. And I think we've done that. So we've got a very cohesive, well-working team.
Our expenses are always higher in 2 areas as compared with other dealerships our size, and that's in wages and in training. And I'm very happy that they're high in that area because we're spending the money in the right place as far as I'm concerned.
We all work well together. We all have the same ultimate goal, which is to be the best that we can be. But there's also a prevailing sense of family here, too.
We always feel that when we make a customer for life, not just to sell them a car. The majority of our business comes from repeat and referral customers, so how we handle the customer initially is what determines the history and from there on out with the customer.
As far as service work, we vacuum every car, we wash the windows, maybe wipe the dust off the dashboard, try to make the car neater and cleaner than it was when it came in here. It's just an added thing to try to make people realize that you do care about what you're doing. You know, we're trying to impress them and make them come back.
It always makes me extremely proud when customers go out of their way to come back, not just to buy cars, but they'll go out of their way to come back here and say, gee, you know, you guys really made a difference. I really felt wonderful doing business here. You put the joy back in buying a car for us.
My customers will tell me that when they walk into our dealership, no matter where they walk into, whether it's the service department, parts department, or new car showroom, they can feel the difference. They can feel the difference that our people make. And I think it's genuine.
I think those people share some of Roger's vision, a commitment to being their best, simplifying what we're really trying to do here, and looking at things from the customer's point of view. Again, it can appear to be just common sense. But getting to that next level in customer satisfaction also means you need some brand new tools. Most of you watching this program went through Customer One. You know why customer service is the key to our survival, and you have a toolkit of basic customer satisfaction skills. The things we talked about in Customer One brought us up to speed. They positioned us to satisfy customers' needs today. But to get ahead of the curve, to make sure we're always meeting those needs, whatever they are, means we need to start thinking in a new way. And that's what we're going to cover in the program we're about to roll out called Advanced Customer One. There's absolutely nothing fuzzy about Advanced Customer One. Rather, it's a chance to reinvent your job and to help reinvent your dealership exactly the way you want it to be, the way it can survive into the next century. In Advanced Customer One, you'll talk about your dealership's vision and about the specific activities that will turn that vision into reality. You'll learn to focus less on individual tasks, and you'll concentrate more on finding better ways to achieve your goals and your dealership's goals. You'll learn how to monitor and to manage what you do in order to deliver outstanding value to your customers. You'll learn how to focus your work where it really counts at the point of customer impact. And you'll learn to make decisions that produce fewer delays, lower overhead, and better customer response. In short, you'll get the tools you need to make Handle with Care, up there, not only a meeting theme, but a new way of doing business for your dealership. Now, maybe you wonder why we're telling you all about this. First, we're telling you because what we're talking about is leading-edge change, the kind of change that's toughest to make and the kind that's most important. We want you to be ready for that change. Second reason we're telling you about Advanced Customer One is that you have a unique perspective on the business. It's natural for a dealer principal to manage and a manager to see a dealership as a collection of departments, you know, new, used, service, parts, F&I. But if you're working inside one of those departments, you have a different perspective. You see the challenges the dealership faces in each of those areas, challenges that others might not see, challenges the dealership needs to face one at a time if it's going to survive. Knowing the most effective approach to meeting those challenges can make you an even more valuable part of your dealership. But the most important reason we're telling you about Advanced Customer One is because it can't work without your support. Let me give you an analogy. If you've ever been to Disney World, you've probably seen the folks around the park that sell popcorn. Seems like a pretty easy job, doesn't it? But those people go through 6 weeks of customer service training before they scoop their first bag of popcorn in public. They get that training because Disney World knows they're not just popcorn vendors. They answer questions, they give directions, they help lost kids. They're part of the park's appearance. They're part of the fabric of the park. In the same way, each of you is part of the fabric of Chrysler. Without your involvement, all the talk and all the training in the world won't satisfy one customer or earn one repeat sale. With your commitment and support, plus our products and our marketing plans, and a new, more effective approach to building value-oriented customer relationships, we can make Chrysler Corporation and your dealerships the customer satisfaction standard bearer of the industry. Thanks for joining us, and have a great 1996.